You know that you're expected to use a wide range of punctuation for effect within your descriptive narrative writing piece. But do you really know how to use the colon properly? This video will help you once and for all nail the colon. Stay tuned, you're watching Schofield on Shakespeare. Just to confirm what the different mark schemes say about punctuation.
AQA Paper 1, Question 5, Assessment Objective 6, wide range of punctuation is used with a high level of accuracy. Edexcel Paper 2, Questions 8 and 9, Assessment Objective 6, punctuates writing with accuracy to aid emphasis and precision. CIE GCSE English Language Paper 2, both sections, spelling, punctuation and grammar almost always accurate.
Let's start with a definition. In this video, I'm going to explore 4 ways in which you can use a colon. Number 1, you can use a colon to introduce a list of items.
For example, looking up, he couldn't believe what he was seeing in the classroom, colon. Real students, real voices and real smiles. What is the effect of a colon being used here within my sentence fantasizing about a return to the time when we actually see our students in the classroom rather than on a screen? Well, the colon creates a feeling of anticipation and highlights the importance and joy felt from seeing the students in person, hearing their voices and noticing their smiles. Unlike with a semicolon, you do not need to use a main clause in the second half of the sentence. Here's another example. The YouTube channel Schofield on Shakespeare is known for 3 particular features, colon. Jaw-droppingly cheesy trailers, ill-advised stunts involving cooking or wigs, and poor sound quality. The colon creates the longer pause and draws attention to the 3 characteristics of the YouTube channel. Could this sentence have been written without a colon? Potentially, yes. I could just remove the anticipatory and arguably superfluous phrase, 3 particular features, and the colon, and just begin. The YouTube channel Schofield on Shakespeare is known for jaw-droppingly cheesy trailers, ill-advised, etc. What is the difference in feel between these 2 sentences? Well, the shorter sentence without the colon on screen now has more of a subtly satirical feel, whereas the original longer sentence with the colon draws attention more explicitly to its satirical feature choices. Both are effective, and the key is always variety in punctuation. Overuse of colons and semicolons can be extremely irritating, but failing to use them at all could jeopardise that grade 9. Time for number 2 now, and note the similarity with one use of semicolons. Semicolons can be used to create a relatively equitable link between consecutive clauses, whereas a colon is used explicitly when the second clause builds upon the first. For example, but until lately these things had been a stimulus, colon. It had amused him to shake off trifles, baffle bores, circumvent failure, and exercise his mental muscles in persuading stupid people to do intelligent things. In this extract, taken from Edith Wharton's 1927 novel Twilight Sleep, the writing post the colon clearly explains why, until recently, Dexter had seen certain things as a stimulus. My personal preference is to use semicolons to separate linked phrases of similar length, whereas here the explanation post-colon is clearly much longer than the introductory phrase. Here's another example. The thought of Pauline made him glance at his clock, colon. She would be coming in a moment. Why has a colon been used? Well, the second phrase explains why Dexter is looking at the clock. He knows his wife's arrival is imminent. Number 3 is similar to the second, only there's no need to have a main clause after the colon. For example, with kick-off approaching, the beleaguered manager knew that there was only one option, colon, win and win at all costs. The colon late on in the sentence creates a dramatic feel and spotlights the critical importance of the manager pulling a win out of the bag for his wretched underachieving team. Another example could be, after plenty of deliberation, discussion and angst, the decision was made, colon, guilty. Finally, number 4, nice and straightforward. For example, she answered softly, colon, I'm not going away till you've promised. Blimey, that sounds somewhat ominous.
Time now to do some practice. An extract is going to appear on screen in which a colon has been omitted. Your task? Simple. Read it through and identify where the colon should have been positioned. From this point onwards, all examples are going to be taken from Edith Wharton's 1927 novel Twilight Sleep. Really serious about improving your English? Never underestimate the value of reading every night in bed for 20 minutes or so.
Press pause to read and to find that missing colon. The video will resume in 5 seconds' time. It all sounded a bit rushed without the colon, didn't it? Here we have my third use of the colon, where it is used to draw attention to a word or phrase. Clearly the reception that Mrs. Manford is planning for the Cardinal is a big deal for her. Here's another one for you to have a go at. Read and find the missing colon, but press pause first. In this case, we can see a colon used to introduce particular details within a list. The colon precedes the detail that Nona's father is worried, worn out, but still somehow maintaining a kind twinkle of the eye. Try just one more before we move on to the next section. Read, find the missing colon, it's pause time. Without the colon, it's just too frantic, rushed, and doesn't make clear sense. This is another example of drawing attention to a word or phrase post-colon, in this case Lita Wyants and Tommy Ardwin. The dance floor is cleared before their entry, thus the sentence is structured to give the pair a pause via the colon before they are introduced towards the end of the sentence.
Now let's take things to the next level, make things really interesting. In this section, I'm going to give a number of sentences from Wharton's Twilight Sleep and then give you a prompt for a missing sentence which, in the original, contained a colon. Your task then will be to write this sentence using a colon accurately before comparing it to the original.
In the paragraph on screen, a young man is spouting pretentious, showy nonsense. Presumably, he is desperate to impress. Now continue his pretentious rubbish with an additional sentence which uses a colon. In the first, pre-colon part of the sentence, continue the logic by suggesting that everything in life should be false. In the second, post-colon part, give a list of items which are an everyday part of our experience which, in your humble opinion, should be false. Grab a pen to write this sentence now. It's pause time. I write, we must therefore conclude that we have a duty to ensure everything in life is false, colon. Relationships, feelings, experiences, and our very existence. The colon helps draw melodramatic attention to the speaker's ludicrous conclusion and use of false, quasi-philosophical logic. Wharton's version is, unsurprisingly, better. She writes, ergo, everything in life should be false, colon. Complexions, teeth, hair, wives, especially wives. Wharton uses anaphora, the repetition of the same initial phrase, with everything within consecutive sentences, and this helps build up the illusion that something logically sequential is being said. However, her list of items post-colon have a more comic effect than the abstract nouns I listed, whilst Wharton adds further dark humour by the repetition of wives following the ellipsis. Get the idea? Time for you to have another go. In this extract, Dexter is reflecting on his career as a lawyer. It has felt like exactly the right profession for him. Now, give an additional sentence which contains a colon. In the first half, talk about the fact that there have been difficulties in his career. Then, add a colon. Post-colon, give some examples of things which have been difficult to deal with. Grab your pen to have a go at writing this colon-containing sentence. It's pause time. I write, nonetheless, every so often he had faced tiresome challenges, colon, incompetent secretaries, power-hungry graduates, and ignorant, pig-headed juries. The colon helps provide additional clarity and draws attention to the aspects of the narrator's career which have caused genuine frustration. Clearly, even though he was born to be a lawyer, it hasn't always been plain sailing. Wharton writes, of course, at every stage of his career, he had suffered the 1,000 irritations inseparable from a hard-working life, colon. The trifles which waste one's time, the fools who consume one's patience, the tricky failure of the best-laid plans, the endless labour of rolling human stupidity up the steep hill of understanding. The tone is similarly dismissive to my version. For my pig-headed juries, Wharton has the fools who consume one's patience. However, notice the far more interesting end of the sentence. The extended metaphor emphasising just how difficult it can be for ordinary human beings to attain something approaching wisdom. We need to somehow get our human stupidity up a steep hill. One final opportunity for you to write a magnificent sentence of your own using a colon. In the extract on screen, Pauline reflects that her husband is unlikely to forget or miss a dinner at the Toys' house. Her husband has always fancied Mrs. Toys. She also reflects that her husband seemed to find his own stepdaughter-in-law quite attractive. Add a sentence with a colon. Pre-colon reflect that men of her husband's age are supposed to be drawn to younger models. Post-colon use a very short phrase indicating that such feelings are likely to be temporary. Grabbing your pen, press pause now to have a go at writing this colon-containing sentence. I write, but then such behaviour was sadly predictable for men of a certain age, colon, and it wouldn't last forever. Pauline seems to be getting a degree of satisfaction from her no-nonsense concluding post-colon phrase. No point worrying about a husband's possible misdemeanours when such misdemeanours could be expected in virtually every household across the land at some point. Needless to say, Wharton's version is far crisper. She writes, well, she supposed it was one of the symptoms of middle age, colon, a passing phase.
So, you've written 3 of your own sentences containing colons. And you've also spotted 3 occasions on which a colon should have been used. Well done. That means you're ready for my concluding quiz.
Question 1. Which colon has been used inaccurately in this extract? Press pause now to read and identify. Two colons are used in this extract, one correctly and one incorrectly. Let's take them in turn. She had a way of deepening it by her presence, colon. Noise and hurry died on her thresholds. No problem here. A main clause is used post-colon to expand upon the lady's mysterious way of maintaining a deliciously peaceful, calm atmosphere. But good God, what is going on here? I guess the thinking might be that the colon helps draw attention and emphasize the quiet. However, you should never use a colon in this way to separate the verb was from its object quiet and thus disrupt the grammatical flow. The sentence should of course be Question 2. God damn it, a colon should have been used in this extract but hasn't been. Where would you have put the colon? It's pause time. It has to be here, doesn't it? Post-colon expands upon Pauline's reasoning. Final question. 4 different definitions of colon use. Which one is wrong? Take your time over this one. Press pause now to read and write down your answer. Perhaps this question was a bit naughty, but the first one is inaccurate and is actually a definition for how to use a semicolon. Remember that when using a colon, the second clause needs to expand upon or explain the first. With semicolons, the relationship is more equitable.
This has been a Schofield on Shakespeare production imploring you to nail the colon. Many thanks for watching.